Welcome back to Sports Cards and a Cup of Joe. This is your host, Joe Davis, and today I am going to have some fun because I get to try to relate to each of you an incredible experience that I just had at our shop. First of all, this episode is sponsored by your friends at GotBaseballCards.com and our grading team. And if you need help with your collection, like the gentleman I'm going to tell you about, don't hesitate to contact us. We handle thousands and thousands of cards every single month. We love working with collectors all over the globe, and we love assisting collectors. We feel honored when you give us an opportunity to help you. And I want to tell you about my friend Gary. I'm not going to give away his last name because that would not be appropriate. But Gary, this past week, we've been in touch with Gary for the last year. We met Gary at the National last year in Cleveland. And our head of grading, Doug Giles, has been in contact with him on and off. And at one point, Gary wanted us to travel up to New York to look at his collection. And when you're in our seat, you get calls all the time about, you need to travel to see my collection. And I can tell you there are many I have traveled to and I regretted because I was like, this is not at all what you said it was. This is not. And so nowadays we are much more cautious. We typically will request that someone who wants us to come look at their collection, we need to see emails with lots of photos. We need to have an idea of what they are asking for the collection and so forth. But Gary had been in touch with Doug for the last year on and off about his collection, his childhood collection. Gary is 83 years old. So this week, Gary and his son drove down from New York. It's about 14 hours. And we felt so honored to get to assist him with his collection because you think of how many shops he drove by between New York and Loganville, Georgia. And we were hopeful when he arrived. At first, I was a little disappointed because I went out in the parking lot to greet him. He had an early morning appointment with us, and he only had one banker box. And I thought, well, what is he going to have in one banker box? This is going to take us, 15 minutes. And I was already feeling bad. I'm like, okay, he's traveled all the way from New York, and and he had booked a hotel for 3 days to spend time with us to go through his collection. And I thought, we go through thousands of cards in no time. This is going to be, really simple. So it took me all of about 2 minutes when Gary and his son and Doug and I sat down to review his collection to know this was not going to go quickly, and it was also going to go very, very well because Gary had taken really, really good care of his cards. So we open the notebooks and we start pouring over page after page after page of 1952 Topps baseball, 1953 Topps baseball, all the way up through 1957, as well as some 52 Bowmans, 51 Redbacks, and other assorted cards. I laughed. Half of one notebook was 1981 Donruss. I have no clue how those got in there. But and yes, I was disappointed with those, but the rest of the collection was just stunning. Now, I see old cards every week. Earlier the same week, I bought 3 different vintage collections the same day. They were all small, and none of them were even $1,000. They were smaller collections, but I see old cards all the time. We have, as I've shared, we have tens of thousands of vintage cards in stock. So nothing normally surprises me, but Gary's collection very much surprised me because the condition was just stunning. And Gary told us that even as a kid, he wanted to take good care of his cards. And you see, Gary was around 10 years old around the time 51, 52 Topps baseball were coming out. So the Redbacks and the 52 Topps. Now, don't get too excited. There was not a Mickey Mantle in this collection. In fact, there were no high numbers. So I was disappointed in that because I was immediately flipping. I'm like, where's 311, which is Mantle? Like, where's 312, which is Jackie Robinson? And unfortunately, there were no high numbers. But there were a lot of nice low numbers. However, before I talk about the 52s, I'll tell you the very first page that he eagerly flipped to show us, and that was the page with 3 1954 Hank Aaron rookies and 2 1954 Ted Williams. That was a pretty powerful page right there. Through our pre-screening, we estimated the 3 Aarons as probably being all mid-grade. We're hopeful for an 8 on one of them, and one other is really close, and one is more like a 4 or 5 range. So we are very, very pleased with the condition on those cards. So we will see what they come back. But very nice cards on the Aaron rookies. But now back to the 52s. 52s, even the commons in 1952 Topps are outliers as far as any other vintage cards go. There is so much love, passion, delight when it comes to 52 Topps. Collectors just, no year sells better in our vintage commons than 1952 Topps. And these were just so beautiful. I was working on the notebook with the 52s while Doug was working on the other years, and I was just taking every card out of the notebook so that I could look at it closely. And we submitted a large number of 52s. You know, there were many. There was not a Willie Mays, but there were many stars, including Yogi Berra, Phil Rizzuto, many others. But the thing is, it didn't really matter whether it was stars or not, because so many of these were so nice that even the commons are worth grading. You see, you know, even mid-grade 52 Topps commons can bring really good money, especially depending on which player it is, depending on how many have been graded in a certain grade. A lot of these commons I was pulling can, even as like a 6, can be over $100 a card, as a 7 can be multiple hundreds for a card. So, you know, 8s and above can be obviously much higher than that. And we're hoping for some 8s. Certainly we would love to hope for a 9. If they want to give us a 10 on one, we'll take it. 9s and 10s, of course, are nearly impossible on 52 Topps. You just rarely ever see them. But I'll tell you, if any have a shot, these do. Because the ones that I pulled that were well-centered, of course, that's also one of the keys when you're examining a collection of 1952 Topps specifically. The centering can be off so much. The one nice thing about 52 Topps is they have the nice wide white borders. So as compared to the next year on the 53s, where you have those dark borders that can chip so easily, and that chipping shows up so easily, it's a little easier on the 52 Topps when they're as clean as this. So we spent so much time going through, pulling cards, you know, comping cards when we weren't sure if it might be worth it. But we spent hours and hours with Gary, and he left a very satisfied submitter. I don't recall the exact total, but if I remember correctly, it was just under about 400 cards in total that we picked for him. And They're all going off to PSA, which is what he wanted. And as nice as these were, I certainly wouldn't argue with him, because his resale on high grade vintage is going to be typically is going to be strongest, especially on the commons. And the reason is that those who are working on a complete set are always checking the pop report to see, okay, how many cards of Ferris Fane are there graded, in a 7 or an 8 or whatever, and you can fill in the blank with which player we're talking about. Maybe it's card number 1, Andy Pafko, which is a huge card in high grade because it's number 1 and it's 52 tops. But it was just, I love 52 tops. I'm sorry, it was so exciting for me. And I've been doing this, for 35 years. But when I see literal pack fresh 1952 tops cards, I'm a kid all over again. I didn't get to experience that as a kid, because when I was a kid, I was opening mid-70s tops. But I was just like, oh my goodness. And he kept telling us how, I took care of my cards, and I always believed in taking care of my cards. And, they were still in old plastic pages, and he is going to do very, very well. I don't know what the grades are going to be, but I'm so excited that not only did we get to assist him with grading these, but we also are going to be handling the sale of these cards on consignment for him. And I cannot wait to get these back. Some of the higher dollar cards, all the cards have already gone out the door, but some of the higher dollar ones we're actually having returned to us at the National this year, so that we can have an opportunity to resell some of those, or depending on the grades, they may end up in a major auction house. If some of the really biggest cards end up as like 8s, they are definitely going to be 5-figure cards. So can't wait to get those back and hopefully make Gary a lot of money on his childhood collection. And what was amazing to me is the day after Gary, we received a submission, and Doug called me and said, Joe, you're not going to believe this. So what had been submitted, along with an 87 tops Mark McGuire and several other cheap cards from the 80s and 90s, none other than some 1952 tops high numbers and low numbers from another submitter. And I was just like, okay, it's 52 tops week. And this other gentleman turned in a Willie Mays, as well as, which is a low number card, but also a Jackie Robinson high number. And if you're familiar with that card, it's absolutely a beautiful card. I've had some graded versions in the past that I sold on consignment, and that's one of the ones that got away, where I look back and said, I really should have tried to just buy that, because I don't have one in my collection, but it's such a beautiful card. And one thing that's very unique about the Jackie Robinson is, as it is card 312, it came next in line after the 52 tops Mickey Mantle. And a couple of years ago, there was an auction for a severely miscut 52 Jackie Robinson, and it was miscut on the front to where you could see the edge of the Mantle card. And I don't remember how much it sold for, but I thought, normally cards that are severely off center or miscut, not something I'm going to be excited about, but that one was incredibly unique. But my point is, inside of 2 days, we took in huge collection of mid-50s, and we submitted more 1952 tops than any other year that he had in his collection, though he also had some beautiful 51 redbacks, including the Berra and many other. There's not a lot of stars in that, but if I recall, I think he had them all. And again, 3 beautiful Hank Aaron rookies, multiple 54 Ted Williams, a beautiful 55 Clemente rookie, and on and on and on. A beautiful K-line rookie from '54. So we just had a blast reminiscing about baseball, reminiscing about baseball memories of Gary watching teams in New York back in the day and submitting his cards, and then seeing this other nice collection come in. And I, as someone who's done this again for forever, I was reminded that, and this is my phrase for the show, they're still out there. There are still incredible collections to be found. There are still incredible collections to hunt down. Now, I didn't hunt this down. They found us. We just offered the service to assist them, and we're blessed to be able to do that and help individuals, because nothing more rewarding to me in this hobby than, an 83-year-old gentleman who has never submitted a card for grading in his life, has never sold a card online in his life, has never worked with an auction house in his life, gets to drive 14 hours to come and see us, and in a matter of a few hours, we get to assist him. We get to explain everything, the process. We get to help him, and eventually we're going to be able to give him a really nice check for the things we sell for him. But even nicer, today we get a text from his son. And he says, and he actually sent this to Doug, and he said, "I wanted to thank you and Joe for the kindness you showed my father and me, as well as the care and attention you paid to his collection. I know how much that collection means to my father, and the whole process was conducted by you and Joe, reflected that you also understood and respected that fact. For that, I'm eternally grateful." And he goes on to discuss other things that we discussed there. But that is so rewarding to me, and just makes me feel good that we were able to help someone. But it just reminds me that there are still finds like that out there. A few years ago, and I really should do an entire episode on this, but I'll give you a sneak peek. A few years ago, a man who's become a good friend flew in on his own plane to our store and brought us a really nice collection for grading. And this is when PSA was shut down, so SGC was our logical choice, as it was a great vintage collection. And then I later drove to his house in Florida and spent the night with him, going through more and more and more boxes, and we ended up spending several $100,000 with him on his collection through him grading with us and then consigning with us. And I was still amazed at his collection, because he had multiple complete sets from the 50s and 60s and 70s that he had not ever graded a card. And so they're still out there. So, if you're one who loves watching these great finds on TV and pickers type shows where they go and hunt things down and find things, just know that those finds really are still out there. So it's honestly motivated me to really think outside the box, not just for advertising our services, but saying, where can I run buy ads for vintage collections? Where can I go where no card dealer has gone before, as Star Trek Trekkies would say? Where can I place ads where no other dealer has gone? Where can I travel to that no one else is traveling to? And the biggest thing, as I shared, this gentleman's son sent us such a nice text. How can I find others like this who have a need, who are sitting on a gold mine of cards but don't know what to do with them? How can I find them to help them? Yes, we earn a commission on it. Yes, we make a profit on it. But when you get texts like this, when you get to work with a gentleman who is so appreciative and we leave that transaction, we leave that meeting knowing that we've been able to provide great service to help him. That is so rewarding. And to know that whether it be trading cards or comic books or coins or any of the things that we deal in, knowing that there are families out there sitting on stuff like this, and sometimes a financial need arises and they have that need to turn those assets into income. And I am so thankful to be in a role, to be in a position where my company is able to assist individuals with that. So if you've got some finds like this out there that you want to share with me, I love to hear stories like that. It keeps me excited. It keeps me motivated in this hobby. It reminds me every day to say, thank you, Lord, for what I get to do, because I am so blessed in what I get to do each and every day. Every day is an adventure. Every day someone might show up with a notebook full of 52 tops. Most days they don't, but you just never know. Today I was not at my shop. I was busy working on an upcoming product that I'm going to share more about soon. But I had a call and they bought a truckload of items. I came in, there was stacks of Star Wars autographs and Ronald Acuna inserts and football rookie cards, and you just never know what will come in on any given day. But I love hearing stories. If you're a dealer, if you're a collector and you've had a great find, I'm not going to ask for your secrets. If you're advertising in some obscure magazine and you're getting all kind of phone calls, more power to you. I'm not going to say, hey, please share your secrets with me. Now, if you want to share them, that's fine, but I'm not going to try to drag them out of you. But if you've had a great find story lately, I would love to hear it, and I hope this one has been entertaining to you. But my point of sharing this is to keep all of you motivated. Those finds are out there. Ask your family members, and post on your Facebook, hey, buying baseball cards, buying whatever thing is your niche, as I've shared on another episode. But have fun with it. Think about, you can be in the same kind of role I was in this situation. You can be the one to help someone else. You can still make a fair profit, but you can be the one to help someone else turn their cardboard assets into a financial windfall for them. So hope you've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed sharing it again because I've just got to relive it, and I wanted to get this out while it was all still fresh in my mind. And I'll be happy to share in future episodes as more of these cards come back, to just see how Gary did, how we did picking cards, and can't wait to see those come back in those beautiful PSA slabs and be able to offer those to many of you and others. So thanks again for listening, everyone. I truly hope you're enjoying the podcast. I'm having a great time with it. I hope it shows through my voice. I wish you could see me on video and seeing me waving my hands around as I'm trying to communicate this to no one in this office. But thanks again for listening. Remember today, Jesus loves you. Remember that I think you are awesome too, and I can't wait to share again with you next time. Thanks so much for listening.